Welcome to the Agility in Real Life podcast, Take 5 in Real Life. Now your hosts, Mike Studeman, Jeff Lee, and Pat Campbell.
All right. Well, welcome to the Take 5 IRL podcast. I'm Mike Studeman. I'm one of the partners at Agility IRL, and I'm pleased to be joined on this episode by a special guest, Gijs Valbracht. Gijs is a Agile coach based currently in the Twin Cities, but I'll let him tell you where he originates from and a little bit about his background before we jump into our topic. Gijs, take it away.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a good introduction. Always struggling with that name, right? I,
Absolutely, absolutely. I did my best. We'll see how the viewers of our podcast think I did, but I did my best.
so, my name is Gijs Valbracht, and that is indeed a very hard name around here. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and I guess my parents never envisioned any type of international career for me. They would have called me Gus or John or anything.
Sure.
Um, so most of our conversations start with how to pronounce my name, which is fine. So it's Gijs. Um,
Thanks. Yeah,
I moved to the US in 2022 with our family, two daughters, now 14 and 8. Um, Moved here because my wife started a software company a couple of years ago and is building the business here in the US. I Before we moved, I worked at ING Bank in the Netherlands, and had a global role in the agile transformation the organization was going through. Just to share a little bit of my background
sure.
in agile transformation, started my career at KPMG in corporate finance, so building a solid financial background. Then moved from consulting to working in operations. Was an entrepreneur at the time as well, before moving to ING, which I thought was just for some time, and I ended up working 12 years for the company, which was
Isn't it funny how it goes that way? You think you're going there for just a little while and you end up 12 years later still being there. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it says a lot about the organization and that it is a really interesting place to work. And a lot of things can be done around there. I started initially in lean and operations, building teams and helping them set up their processes. And Not long after I started there in lean, working as a black belt and master black belt, um, the first steps in agile way of working started at
Sure.
ING. And I've been involved in that process along that journey that took well over a decade, to the point where it became the way of working of ING
Right.
across the world.
Right.
Um, well, probably we can talk today about what that looked like and how it started.
Yeah, I'm super excited to kind of dig into your time a little bit at ING because you've shared some great results. They've had some great results in moving to a new way of working, and I think our audience is going to benefit from hearing your experience, having been there and bringing about that change. So maybe start out and kind of set the stage for us. I mean, ING. I think is a fairly well-known name now, but maybe wasn't back then. Kind of set up where were they at from a business perspective? Has they kind of looked at this agile way of working? Where were they at from a business perspective, and what caused them to kind of want to explore a different way of approaching product development?
Yeah. So we have to go a little bit back in time here and talking 2010, around that time. Um, and ING was already at that time the largest bank in the Netherlands, and already present in a lot of other countries too. And when they started looking at agile way of working and using things like Scrum,
Sure.
um, Where they were at the time was that despite the fact that they were the largest bank, or maybe because they were the largest bank, it was the only bank in the Netherlands that at the time did not have a mobile app. So
Wow.
think of solutions like where you could still phone and you could get the amount of money you had in your
Right.
account,
All right.
but not something you would look up on your phone. Other large Dutch bank would already have some sort of mobile app. Um, and this is where they had to look at how can we fix this? And the normal approach at the time would be to create a big program, right? And
Hmm.
to know exactly what it had to look like, and then build the thing, and we would have it ready in 2 years. But they just couldn't afford waiting 2 years to come up with something.
Of course.
And this is where someone came up on the AT side saying, "Hey, we have heard about this Scrum thing. Isn't that something what we could try and try and deliver on this iteratively?" And maybe it was because of the lack of having other options or just not being able to do it the traditional way,
Right. Right.
where they said, "Yes, let's give that a try," and actually with a lot of buy-in and support from the senior leaders on the IT side.
Do you think so? It started in IT. Do you think having that kind of business crisis, if you will, around not having a mobile app kind of drove them to Scrum? Or do you think that the bank would have eventually adopted a different way of a more agile way of working naturally?
Well, I would argue it doesn't necessarily come naturally, right? So there has to be a reason to start making a change. Just not just for the reason of doing a change, but
Sure.
because there's something that you want to get out of it or can get out of it. And this was a clear case where there was a business need and the Scrum way of working, or that is iterative delivery, being a possible solution to the problem they were facing. And I think that is very helpful.
I find it interesting that even though ING was the largest bank in the Netherlands, they still felt a need to address kind of this key weakness of not having a mobile app at the time too. I think shows um, some good self-awareness on the part of the organization to say, yeah, we're number one, but we're not going to stay number one unless we address the fact that we don't have a mobile application.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and maybe one of the reasons why I ended up spending so many years at ING is that overall, and maybe that was a culture that was already there in the organization, is that there's a lot of guts across the organization to try something new and later on in the transformation when it got really big we had a lot of companies visiting our
Sure.
offices and it was not because we were doing necessarily something very special or uniquely new. We learned a lot from other companies, um, but it was the skill at which we were able to do it that made it so interesting and why other companies were coming in and saying, "Well, tell us how do you get so many people to get into this new way of working?"
Yeah, so you get this business case around we need a mobile app. You're starting to get into IT kind of saying we have to work in an iterative, incremental way
Yeah.
using an agile framework like Scrum. How do you said, it only works if everyone gets on board beyond kind of having that in the culture. How did you get everyone on board? Because I'm sure there had to be some people saying, are we really sure we want to develop it this way? We could just set up a program, a couple of years, we'll have a mobile app and that'll be fine. How
Yeah.
do you get everyone on board?
So that didn't happen overnight. And I think next to having a reason to try to do something in a different way, you have to show that it's actually something that helps, right? So it has to be successful. And I think they managed to pull that off, where because of the people being excited trying something new, and getting support from the senior leaders to really do something different. And then being able to show that they were actually capable of coming up with something in a very short time frame and putting it out there. And it didn't mean that the thing that they put out there was perfect. It wasn't. But the good thing was that by putting it out there, um, the customers had the opportunity of responding and telling us, what do you like and what do you not like about the thing that we gave you? So it started driving the next thing they had to work on. So that interaction and getting that feedback from your customers was there from the very first start. And that helped to incrementally build a mobile app that is now still the highest rating mobile banking app in the Netherlands. And it wasn't just the success they had in what they were delivering. I think a big part also was that the team working on this was showing like a lot of energy and
Sure.
enthusiasm about this way of working. And other people in IT were looking at these teams that they were doing that work in this new way, and they were thinking like, why can't we do things in the same way? Can we be as excited about the work that we're doing as those people are?
Right.
So,
Right.
so th- the thing the team was radiating to the rest of the organization was a big part of being able to scale that, where it wasn't like we're going to push this way of working to others in the IT organization. They were actually asking about it and saying, hey, why can't we do the same?
So,
Uh,
so a lot, sorry to interrupt there, but a lot
yeah.
to kind of call out. I mean, one, you have a compelling business case, which we've already talked about. Two, you had leadership, and I think maybe in a future episode we'll dive into, how do you get those senior leaders to really drive that organizational change. But you had senior leaders that were willing to support working in a different way. I like that idea of radiating the excitement across
Mhm.
the organization and not pushing people to work in a different way. And also, I think you mentioned how connecting with the customers, getting their feedback, showing them something builds that excitement. I think as product development professionals, we sometimes forget that the reason we're building product is to solve a problem for a customer or solve a problem for a user, and actually being able to connect with those people, that drives huge excitement, even if they're not always happy with what you build.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Take 5 IRL podcast. If you like it, please go ahead and share it with someone, as well as like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, leave us a comment or a suggestion for a future episode. Again, thanks for listening, and we look forward to you joining us next time on the Take 5 IRL podcast.